used as a basic device or the medium, and where the optical fibers are a very special kind where the material science plays a very important role. So what I will quickly go through in activities that we have a very clear three verticals. One is the specialty optical fiber where the material scientists actually play a very important role to develop the optical fiber. And what is optical fiber, I will come after 2-3 slides, where these many special types of dopants are used to configure the optical fiber code and to control its transmission characteristics, and which plays an important role for developing fiber optic based devices. First is a fiber optical amplifier and a fiber laser. Third, the same optical fibers in different forms are used to develop fiber optic sensors, where the fiber drag rating, which the terminology which I will introduce from a very basic level for a better understanding, which can give us a lot of sensors where mostly the electrical sensors are unable to play any role where these fiber optic sensors use. Now, among all these things, it is very difficult to cover up within this time. So I will concentrate on two very basic principles on which the sensors as well as this fiber laser operates. One is the optical bandpass filter. It is a very basic thing in optics. And the lasers, we use lasers everywhere, starting from manufacturing, say, and in 3D printing, in surgical applications, and how fiber optics plays an important role in devising these two things. So if we come back to the fundamental of an optical bandpass filter, what we have in optics, there is a very special type of optical glass where also CGCRI plays a very important role. It is a bulk optics in the form of a disc, and then we have a number of thin layers of dielectric material and in some cases metals also to form a wavelength selective filters. Means when a band of wavelength is cast on this particular device, a particular band gets reflected, and a particular band, depending on the design of this structure, which we call that the stack, actually permits this operation to perform. So if we consider that the spectrum means in terms of wavelength and transmittance, this is a very clean example of a bandpass filter where we can see that among all these wavelengths which were passed, a particular narrow band is being selected either in the form of a reflection or in the form of a transmission. That depends on the designer. So now the next question is, this is a very important device, starting from filtering spectrum, getting pure light signal with a very narrow bandwidth, and it forms the heart of almost all of the optical measurement devices, starting from your spectrum analyzer, then all different types of spectroscopy needs this optical bandpass filter. Now, let us switch over to the bandpass filter in optical fiber. So what we are doing, instead of using a bulk glass, we will consider an optical fiber and we will try to devise this particular bandpass filter in an optical fiber. So, I will now coin this term, optical fiber drag rating. What is this? It is nothing but an optical bandpass filter. First, to give a briefing about its merit, we will see that this optical bandpass filter, when it is inscribed in an optical fiber, can be used as a sensor for structural monitoring and process control monitoring. In optical communication, it has, several applications in a product form, where analog multiplexer and dispersion compensations are very, examples of two very important devices. And finally, developing fiber lasers, means when optical glass lasers is being transformed into the form of a fiber optics, then developing this fiber optical laser, it has applications using the same filters for resonator mirrors and optical frequency bomb generation. So these are all the devices which again will be very difficult for me to cover up, just to give you a very basic idea that how far this particular optical fiber bandpass filter is being used in industries and applications. So now let us come back to the basic principle of an optical fiber. If we consider that the cross-section of an optical fiber, which we know, everyone knows that it is the basic backbone of all of our communications, internets and data transmission. So what we have as a device, it is simply a silica glass fiber having a region centrally which is barely 9 micron width or 9 micron diameter, and the overall diameter of a glass optical fiber which carries almost all of this information is 125 micron. It is also made of silica. The two differences in color signifies that this whole material is having germanium as an example for standard communication fiber, but for other special applications we can have different doping in the core region. The outside cladding material is nothing but a fused silica. So when light or the optical information propagates through the optical fiber, it has a huge bandwidth. Everybody knows it has a huge bandwidth. How it propagates? There are several guided modes. Guided modes in each modes is being characterized by using a particular wavelength. So all these wavelengths propagate independently. There is no crosstalk. From Kolkata to Delhi, if we simply transmit 5 different wavelengths carrying 5 informations, they will never interact, there will be no crosstalk. So they propagate independently. There will be only absorption and scattering loss, mostly the Rayleigh scattering, which is the only loss, and it has already been minimized for optical fiber, and that's why we generally get a long distance communication systems using optical fiber almost with no loss. Now, if there is a deviation in the geometry and also the homogeneity in this refractive index distribution, means these two optical glass region is absolutely homogeneous and ultimate to the theoretical possible limit. But if there are deviations, means either we are deviating from the geometry or we are deviating from this refractive index distribution in terms of the homogeneity, then what will happen? Instead of propagating all these colors independently, they will couple, and because of this coupling, there will be the selectivity of wavelength. Some of the wavelengths will be reflected back and some of the wavelengths will be passed through. So through this method, and it is very much say implementable using solving the Maxwell's equation. I am not going into this, and the Maxwell's equations, propagations and the coupling of modes will give us a very clear idea that which are the wavelengths depending on the structural non-uniformity can get reflected or can get transmitted. So this is the concept. So what we do in an optical fiber to conceive this bandpass filter, now we are seeing this is a small piece of optical fiber along the propagation direction. This is the core region. So what we do, using an ultraviolet light, we cast a fringe on this core material. So an optical fringe means it is a dark and bright pattern. So once it falls on the core of the optical fiber, there are defects, germanium defect centers in optical core where the ultraviolet radiations get absorbed, and locally where these lights are falling periodically in the optical fiber core, the refractive index of those regions is enhanced, and the rest where there is no light falling, it remains in the original refractive index. So what we have, initially there was a refractive index of the core. What we could do, depending on this light, there is for simplicity and for mathematical use also, we are using a sinusoidal fringe pattern. So we are now modulating the refractive index along the z direction, is the propagation direction of this optical fiber, and this modulation will nothing but cast an interference pattern, that is a periodic pattern, where the length of this grating as well as the period of the grating actually gives us the selectivity, and this is nothing but the bandpass filter that we have created in an optical glass or on top of an optical glass. Now it is inscribed within an optical fiber within the core of 9 micron diameter. So pictorially we can show if there is a broadband signal impinged through this optical fiber, depending on the characteristics of this grating structure, a particular light will be reflected back and the rest of the light will pass through. So this is nothing but a bandpass filter. The beauty of the system is, as different wavelength propagates independently, depending on the design, we can selectively select individual wavelength. So if there is a broadband light and in series there are optical gratings having different clarity characteristics, we can reflect back selectively multiple. So this is nothing but multiplexing ability of a particular device, where through the same signal carrying system I am getting information from different centers which is wavelength coded. So in the control room or in the detector side, what I can see that I know that there are 3 Bragg ratings and where they are situated, and I know also how they are wavelength coded. So if I am able to get this signal back, so I am able to track this particular structure in terms of its wavelength. One very important thing is why optical fiber Bragg rating and these devices are coming in a big way. Means when you are impinging light in this link and detecting, the distance of these particular devices may be 2 kilometers away from your control room, and there will be no losses almost, because we are using a standard communication fiber which is actually propagating the or transmitting the light. Only because you have inscribed certain rating structure, and that's why you are getting that certain reflected wavelength back to your system. Now the question is, how this will be used as a sensor? First of all, again we are able to generate the bandpass filter spectrum that I have shown for a bulk optical system. In a similar way, the width of the bandpass filter in terms of in the wavelength scale can easily be devised using very simple mathematical terms which the designer actually designs and inscribes the rating structure within the fiber. Now, what happens? The question is, in an optical bandpass filter which I had discussed, it is generally used for filtering purposes. Now here, we are proposing that these filters will be used as a sensor. How? It's very easy to say that in an optical fiber, it is a material, so definitely it has an elasto-optic coefficient as well as a thermo-optic coefficient. So if we track this Bragg wavelength, and if there is any change in this 2 constant, so definitely we can expect that this Bragg wavelength which are being tracked will have either a red shift or a blue shift. So from this original wavelength, if there is any perturbation in terms of its say strain as well as temperature, so it can be signatured by measure between these 2 wavelengths. So if I am in a control room, if I am able to track this wavelength difference measurement, so I can easily track, if it is properly calibrated, I can easily track that how much the sensor is being strained as well as it is the temperature of the surrounding is. So once these 2 fundamental parameters are detected, we can devise a lot of sensors. So you see, now basic physics to the engineering part. Once you have your sensors at hand in an optical fiber, now only you have to incur a strain or temperature change, or in terms of pressure, in terms of vibration, whatever it may be, ultimately it will be either in terms of strain and temperature. So you can devise all sorts of strain sensor, tilt sensor depending on the application. Now the uniqueness of these sensors, why people are now verging into this, because of this first quality, it is absolutely EMI and RFI free. So I will just go through immediately through some applications where people do need measuring simple temperature, simple strain, but because of the environment you are not allowed to put any standard thermocouple which is costing around 100 rupees or so. So that's why these particular uniqueness of these sensors means, and there are certain use cases. I will go through a few examples which have already been solved, because in railways we see that there is a pantograph which corrects the current or the and this pantograph is in contact with an overhead line. So when this loco moves, actually this wear is having a stagger. So within a permissible limit in Indian Railways, it is around 550 millimeter, and the overall span is around 1 meter, on which this wear staggers because they do not allow the wear to rub a particular region on the pantograph, so that's why the posts are staggered, so it is always moving. So how we will monitor this contact force, because this force is very important. If it is slack, there will be spark, because 25 kV operational area is there. If the position is out of this danger zone, so there will be a chance of entanglement of this overhead wire with this pantograph, and there will be a catastrophic disaster. So you need to monitor these two, and also if there are certain unwanted impact with this pantograph, because there are certain obstruction which the railway people do not want to have, so that also need to be measured. So I will just chronologically will show you that where from we have started. It looks very simple, but so we had started with a pantograph of Indian Railways based on their collaborative effort. Then we had studied the whole pantograph. It is a soil modeling. Then we have to protect, because we had discussed that the fiber optic bandpass filter is inscribed in 125 micron glass fiber. We cannot expect that this glass fiber will be fitted to the pantograph, so we need a perfect encapsulation and a design where using this encapsulation we can fit this. So design of this housing or the package is very important. Then we say populate this using optical fibers, radiating sensor, encapsulate this. We put it in this pantograph. It is a trial and test bed at CGCRN. Then we run this, and finally when everything is tested, we test all these things under say high voltage testings. There are centers in ERTL and other regions, and we were allowed by the Indian Railways to hoist this pantograph in one of their standard logo. So what we have done, so when it ran, we could sit in that logo and we could measure the movement of this wire online, and this is at 25 kV. We cannot expect any strain gauges or any vibration sensors or temperature sensors working in this. So, and also the height of this is very important. When it is going down to a culvert, we can see that the pantograph is moving down, and in real time we can see using again a displacement sensor which is also measuring this height of this pantograph. In this loco setting in that, we just took it on an optical fiber directly and directly to our signal processing, and we can see it is around 0.5 meter. Then it will go up in real time. We will do this. So this particular example gave us a very big boost, and it is a real application. I have just intentionally has shown this example that starting from a very tiny device, and where the advantage is we are sitting here in our country are able to make these sensors, which is very important in other devices, because everywhere we use sensors in automations, but in 90% of the cases the sensors are being inputted. But we devise the AI-based system, we devise the AI-based decision making, everything we are doing here, but the sensors we pick up from the international market. So here it is going to change something which is going to be very interesting. Now a second use case, it is billet casting, absolutely in a different domain. Here also the requirement is very simple, but the environment why this requirement is there is very dangerous and really hostile. So it is a billet casting. In steel plant, actually this molten metal comes to a mold, and then it gradually solidifies, and the solid state in the form of a billet will go down. So what is the environment? Just to show you that this is the environment why this billet casting or the casting of material goes. So here all these molten signals, and these are all the casters. This casters is running. Tata Steel is the collaborator in this particular work. And finally, where is the problem? When it goes and billet formation is continuously done, there is no problem. But the problem is when sorry. But this molding is Now, in ideal condition, we see that this is the formation of this inner liner when gradually the solidification of the material is going on within this 1 meter, and this is the mold in the caster. But when there is certain flaw in this liner, we can see that this hot spot means the thinning of this area will gradually come down, and there will be at a point when this thin layer will move to this way and there will be a breakout. This breakout is a dangerous thing, but we have seen that there is, instead of solidification of the material, absolutely the liquid metal is coming through the mold, and from the other side the liquid material is spilled over, and the complete caster system needs to be stopped, and crores of revenue is lost. So it is a very simple problem to the designer and to those casting people, that if we are able to by any means real time be able to monitor the temperature gradient of this, because ideally it looks like this temperature gradient of this along this during the casting process, this problem could have been solved. So our target is to instrument the billet mold with temperature sensors. They started to put thermocouple, not allowed, because it is so hostile an environment. We have seen that the signals from the thermocouple is not coming, and also putting up thermocouple, because each thermocouple needs 2 watts, and for the bridge there are more. So here what we have done, there is a single strand of optical fiber with 5 graduating different wavelength coding. So we are able to monitor the temperature along the 1 meter mold at 5 different locations. This has been then put in the caster, and this is the standard procedure for their caster making. Its vibration check was done, and finally when we started pouring the material, we will see that clearly there is a measurement of temperature in real time, and there is a clear gradient. So they could find out the breakout whenever there was a temperature gradient which doesn't match to their requirement. So it has also been successfully done, and we are proceeding say ahead for its commercial development. Now let us come to the second point of a fiber laser. I have to brush up slightly. So here, another very important thing is in optical laser. We see that everybody knows an optical laser, when there are bulk glasses, these are all special. Active laser medium is where the population inversion takes place. I think it is a very special type of glass. For making the resonator, we have to use 2 very high quality optical reflector, or the reflector mirror. There is a comb source, and this is the optical cavity, well designed optical cavity. If we just try to conceive its replica in terms of an optical fiber, we know that this active media should be replaced by a specialty optical fiber. The reflectors, we have already seen that the Bragg rating box has a very nice mirror or a reflector. So these 2 should be the Bragg rating. And finally, this comb source also should be inbuilt into this optical fiber. So if these are the diode laser, there will be a device number 2, which is the output or input power combiner. So it combines all this input output power and comes this. So this is the replica of an optical laser in terms of all optical fiber components. CGCRI is working and developing all these important components except this diode lasers, which is only the imported component that is built up. Apart from this, it is not that only by developing this component the thing is done. Yes, it is hard done. But finally, designing and optimization of this cavity, implementation and testing of the fiber laser, packaging of the prototype and evaluation, it is also very important. Otherwise, getting the confidence level of these industry people is very difficult. So we have to give them a complete solution. So all these things are the things that we have taken care of. I will just rush through that in fiber lasers, depending on the energy and power level, the application, we should not repeat it, starting from different types of surgical and metal cutting and up to leader to directed energy weapon, means for destruction. Everywhere now lasers are being used. And fiber laser is playing an important role. So in CGCRI, We are collaborating in strategic sectors with DRDO for directed energy weapon, means laser development for directed energy weapons, and also for industrial solution. And these are certain of the prototypes that have been built. As I told you that not only the components, certain prototypes are very important. And this is one example of a laser developed by CGCRI, 800 watt continuous wave laser blazing, 64 nanometer. And it has been taken to an industry partner where all this robotics and everything was developed by them. We have only just plugged the laser and it has been used for cutting, etc. Similarly, it is not that for machining, there are very important pulse lasers also what the CGCRI has developed, and we can just see a glimpse of the pulse laser which have been developed at CGCRI, where the scribing and this is a pulse, nanosecond pulse laser. The configuration, one particular configuration is given, and this is for laser marking. Now, finally, for ultra-fast laser activities, I'm very much interested to show this slide also. We can see that these components, even if somebody develops the component for you, unless and until you have the concept to build up these types of lasers in final form or in fiber, using fiber component, it is very difficult to simply transfer these things or these components to the industry people. Because nowadays this ultra-fast laser for applications in different area it is being used, and the implementation of these lasers are being done at CGCRI using this component, and up to 109 femtosecond, because developing a femtosecond laser is really very attractive, and it has applications in many different field of application. So that is the core work what we are doing. And coming back to the healthcare sector, simply if we change, keeping everything intact, the concept everything, if we change the fiber type, that is again coming back to the material, using a different doping of the fiber, we can lace at a different wavelength, where a prototype, commercial prototype model of a thulium fiber laser which is used for lithotripsy and softer hard tissue ablation. It has been now in the clinical trial, and you can see one example that this is a kidney stone, and using this particular laser, how this kidney stone is being fragmented, and once these are fragmented, finally it is washed out through urine, and this is now the a very interesting way of removing the kidney stone using these types of lasers. So finally, let us come back to this, that yes, CGCRI, you will get a lot of activities in this, very difficult to sum up everything, but to give you a very clear idea and to attract the young researchers and the scientists to have a visit to us, to have more interactions with this group. We have almost all of the basic important facilities for fabrications of these optical fiber-based components for fiber lasers and sensors. We have almost all of these characterization facilities, and it is not done in 1 or 2 years. It is the effort of a dedicated group at CGCRI for the last 20-25 years. And finally, what Professor Ahuja specifically mentioned, that these things can only be done if you have a very good collaborations, and each and every people, because in structural health monitoring you will see that the structural engineering research lab, our building research lab, mining research, metallurgical laboratory, all of them are contributing, and finally we are coming under an umbrella to develop this thing. There are industry people, there are stakeholders who directly throws problem to us that if these problems are solvable, you please come out. Similarly, for laser development, there are a number of industries which I am saying it is really painstaking that these people are developing all different types of laser cutting machines, laser engraving machines, then for surgical applications. But however, as I told that all the robotics and everything is being developed in India, they have to import the lasers, and that is a big dependence on the import. So that is what these companies are coming forward to finally come up to form a laser development ecosystem in India. And this is the group again. I was heading just till last month, I was heading this group, And this is a core group of our department, and we also get help from different divisions of CGCRI. And in this group, you will find physicists, chemists, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, everyone. Right? Thank you very much. This is also an engraving.